In learning new languages, pronunciation is one of the most important aspects of basic language learning, especially French language, which has some rules that other languages don't have. Mispronunciation often happens to beginners, especially bilinguals. This case should be avoided because mispronunciation would change the meaning of a word or sentences. They also have the potential to do mispronunciation in the form of interference. This problem can be solved by practicing pronunciation with word games or Virelangue. My name is Nastiti Dewa and my correspondent author Myrna Laksman-Huntley. In this video, I will present our study on Virelangue as a strategy to overcome phonetic interference. Mispronounced interference and Virelangue have been studied several times. In 2019, there are researchers that found interference in beginners while learning English language. Moreover, language error was also experienced similarly when beginners were learning French. These interferences are influenced by their mother tongue and they could affect someone's pronunciation. In addition, there are also studies that analyze various developments in foreign language pronunciation using Duolingo. However, Duolingo only serves one-way learning compared to Virelangue or tongue twister. This following slide contains previous studies I just mentioned. Mispronounce and interference are two inseparable things. However, to fill in the gap, we studied in this article how Virelangue can be used for beginners learning French language with the concept of interference and language error analysis. This is the research methodology we are using for our research. The purpose of the research is to examine the Virelangue effectiveness in improving the ability to read aloud in French language for beginners. We are using qualitative methodology by Creswell to analyze the recording voices from the pronunciation of two Virelangue sentences from TV Segment website. The data are collected through literature and case studies. There are few criteria we use for this research, and these criteria serve to see the progress of French pronunciation that appears in beginners using Virelangue. Our subjects are bilingual. Thus, in this research, we use both Indonesian and French phonetic and phonology theories by Jair and Léon to examine the realization of both language phonemes. Errors were analyzed using Weinreich interference and language error analysis by Tarigan. From the first cycle of pronouncing V1, the overall percentage of errors in this cycle reached 90% and only 10% that was pronounced correctly. Based on the table shown, subjects has difficulty to pronounce dus and dus. This error happened because these sounds actually have difference, even though in Indonesian language has the equivalence for these sounds. In French phonology, the phoneme s and sh are fricative consonants, voiceless, and the articulation is close, which is in predorso-alveolar and predorso-prepalatal labial, while in Indonesian, both phonemes are classified as shifting consonants, both voiceless, and its articulation also located closely, which in lamino-alveolar and lamino-palatal. The difference between the sound z and sh in both languages, that is the sound sh in Indonesian, is not labialized as in French. While for the V2, in the first cycle, no one has been able yet to pronounce the entire sentence correctly. Based on this table shown, the most difficult words to pronounce are song, sage, and Swiss. First, let's take a look at the word song, which contains the sound ong, or one of the French nasal vowel sounds. This sound has no equivalent in Indonesian language, and this error considered as interference of diffusion of phonetic fashions. Because there are no such things in their mother tongue, they tend to say ong, which the sound ng is the nasal consonant in Indonesian, instead of ong. Through this error, it can be concluded that the difference in sound between the two languages can lead to errors of pronunciation. Besides song, sage, and Swiss are also the most difficult words to pronounce. Now, let me explain the progress. From the first and second week, we found that the word dus and dus, also douche and dus, were swapped. These words were pronounced with the same consonant. The similarity between the phoneme sh and s in Indonesian and French confused the research subjects in pronouncing the two phonemes. Besides that, Indonesians have the tendency to allow alternative pronunciation in pronouncing Indonesian vocabularies. These words might have the different meaning. However, as long as they are already in a sentence, Indonesian will still understand the meaning without justifying the pronunciation. This error was then overcome by providing example of correct pronunciation from native French speakers through the Virelangue, as well as of the focus of the phoneme that got mispronounced. With this evaluation, at the post-test stage, the progress is expected to be more visible. The post-test stage also has a goal to determine the achievement of the research subjects on the material that has been given as well as previous experiments. In the second week, the significant progress can be seen. 7 out of 10 subjects begin to be able to distinguish the difference between se, z, and sh in the sentence douze, douche, douce perfectly. From these 2 weeks of practice, the phoneme sh in the word douche is the most well pronounced. This is because the majority of subjects have English proficiency that recognize the sound sh. While for the Virelangue 2, the most difficult words to pronounce are sash, which contain the sound ang, and sound je, as well as Swiss, which were pronounced incorrectly. Mispronunciation of the sounds of these words happened because based on the video in the official website, at the first glance, the native speakers pronounced the word sash with open instead of mid. The subjects then tend to pronounce as sas with back open vowel a. This error considered as hypercorrection, and it can be happen when the research subjects want to make zero mispronunciation in a particular word, especially if they're studying or exploring a new language and they only heard a glimpse of what was said by native speakers on the official website. In the pronunciation training, one of them made another interference called phonetic treatment of borrowed words, and it was detected in the word Swiss. This interference can occur because the lexical similarity between mother tongue and foreign language, and in this case, Indonesian tends to read the words according to what is written in the text. So instead of pronouncing Swiss, the subjects said Swiss with es at the end. We also can say that this interference is affected by English language that pronounce us in the end of the plural things, such as boxes, watches, or dresses. They also can recognize the last vowel sound in Swiss. Thus, when they try to record their own voice, they were trying to pronounce it similar just like the native speaker, such as Suisse, Rose, or Cause. Even though the vowel on this type of words don't really obvious, they could notice it even though it is not perfect yet because they are still beginners. On the last week of practicing, they were asked to read the both Virelangue sentences quickly. In this stage, we could see the result about their progress and the impact of French pronunciation practice with Virelangue. During these 3 weeks, the pronunciation progress wasn't completely perfect, but the number of mispronunciation decreased. Their ability to pronounce correct words in French was improved by applying Virelangue from the introduction of French sounds with example from the instructor or native speakers, practice by reading out loud, and evaluation by indicating the focus of the phoneme pronounced wrongly. In evaluating V1, we focus on the 3 fricative sounds which scrambled incorrectly several times by research subjects. After the evaluation, we found that they finally understand the difference of these sounds. In the end, 8 out of 10 of them pronounced V1 correctly. This is a very good progress compared to the previous 2 cycles. The evaluation given in V2 also focused on words that are difficult to pronounce, such as the ang and je in sage and Swiss. In the 3rd cycle, their pronunciation was much better and they achieved a success of 60%. The sound a and je in the word sage was pronounced perfectly, and only 4 people who until the last cycle still find it difficult to pronounce them correctly. This can happen because they still do not understand about their error. Based on the pronunciation training results, Virelangue can trigger the accuracy and skill of beginners to recognize the sound of different French that have no equivalent in their mother tongue nor the other languages they can speak. From this pronunciation practice, we found that the instructor's role is crucial to see the students' progress because they might mispronounce. So, in the future, they won't repeat the same mistake while reading the sentences. From this study, we would say that our findings support Koroklova et al. And Putri, who stated that Virelangue is one of the most challenging yet effective games for beginners in pronouncing new language vocabulary correctly. That's the explanation of our research article. Hopefully it will be useful, and thanks for watching. See you soon!